I don't know if this actually happened or not, but it's something I dream about sometimes. When I was in grade school, my family lived in a large apartment complex. My parents were not doing well, I guess. My mom was a cashier at a grocery store, and my dad worked at a gas station. They weren't bad parents, not by any means, and I remember a lot of happy times in our little apartment. We had Christmas mornings and movie nights and a lot of weekends spent on the couch with Dad watching cartoons. Dad worked nights, so I usually spent a few hours in the morning with him before he went to bed, and I spent my evenings with him and Mom before I went to bed. The apartment complex we lived at was big, with lots of kids to play with and places to explore. But the best feature was the Blacktop basketball court that seemed to stretch on forever to my 5-year-old mind. It started near the front of my building and went all the way to the dumpster where Daddy took the garbage. I drew hopscotch boards out there. I played basketball with some of the other kids. And the Blacktop generally became whatever we needed it to be. It was our play field more days than not, and we never thought about it much outside of what games we would play that day on it. I remember getting off the bus and finding the chalk, but it's also in that strangely dreamy way that little kid stuff sometimes happens. I was walking home, wondering if I had any chalk left to make a hopscotch board, when I saw something in the ditch across from the complex. It was soggy looking, but we had learned a while ago that sometimes the soggy boxes fell out of the trucks and they had stuff in them. The year before, my friends and I had found some old coins in a lockbox that was next to the road, and we traded them for ice cream. Another time, we found a suitcase full of adult clothes that we used to play house. The box was floating on top of the old puddle water, and I found a stick so that I could nudge it over to the side of the ditch. I gasped. It was a box of chalk. It wasn't colored chalk. I had some stubs left from a big box I'd gotten for my birthday, but a box like the teachers used at school. The box was ruined, but the chalk was fine, and I scooped it up and took it with me. My friends were just getting off the bus from their school, and when I held up the chalk, they all cheered. Most of our parents were making it paycheck to paycheck, so things like sidewalk chalk and new toys usually took a backseat to clothes and food and shoes. "What should we do?" Randall asked as we came into the complex's stairwell. "We could draw a comic," Mimi suggested. "Or a hopscotch board," Kelsey said. "Or make an obstacle course with these things that you can jump over and move around," Dwayne piped up. "We can do all of that," I said. "We've got until dinner time. That's loads of time." To us, the 4 hours until dinner seemed like an eternity, and the afternoon could hold all kinds of secrets. We put our backpacks in our houses and headed to the Blacktop. There were a few other kids there already, jumping rope or shooting baskets, and I divvied up the chalk amongst us. Between me and Mimi and Randall and Dwayne, Kelsey, Rebecca, Kelsey's sister, and Carter, another friend of ours, there was enough for each of us to have 2 pieces with 2 left over. The chalk was regular school chalk, not very big or sturdy, but I remember thinking that it was something special. It was the way the light hit it, I think. When you held it up, it just seemed special somehow, like God had sent it just for us. Dwayne and Carter and Randall set about making an obstacle course, while Mimi and I lay in the shady part of the court and drew characters. It was a little cooler there, the concrete warming our fronts as we drew, and the afternoon slipped on as the shade from the tree slipped farther and farther across the blacktop. We chased it, drawing characters on the hot top as it cooled, and watching Kelsey and Rebecca draw endless grids that they never seemed to jump in. That was pretty normal for them, actually. I think they enjoyed drawing the boards more than they enjoyed playing hopscotch. and as our characters went about their adventures, we heard them arguing over rules. It was getting on in the afternoon by the time they finally started jumping, and that was when the trouble started. Dwayne and Randall had a pretty good obstacle course set up, even if it just consisted of jumping over and around lines on the ground, and Carter had decided to watch, sitting in the grass and keeping time. He would watch them go, keeping time on his old Seiko watch, and tell them how long it had taken them to finish. Dwayne was a little faster, but only because Randall was getting tired. We had sketched across the blacktop by this point, and had even started squatting so we could draw on the parts where the sun was still too hot to lay on. Kelsey and Rebecca had finally decided on some rules for their hopscotch game, and Kelsey was getting ready to go first. I didn't see it when it happened, but I did hear the rock hit the blacktop before she started jumping. Someone called Rebecca's name, and I guess she turned to see who it was because she didn't see it either. I was listening to the chalk of Kelsey's shoes on the pavement. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then suddenly they stopped. I didn't think much about it, not until I heard a sad little voice not far behind me. "Kelsey!" I turned around, just finishing on the teeth of a really cool dinosaur, and saw Rebecca looking around in confusion. "Where's Kelsey?" I asked, standing up from where I'd been squatting. "I don't know," Rebecca said, looking around. "I turned to say hi to Mary Beth, and she was gone when I looked back." I glanced around, but I didn't see her either. There weren't a lot of places to hide here. It was just blacktop, and I can't imagine where Kelsey could have gone so quickly. "Could she have gone home?" I asked Rebecca. "I don't think so," the little girl said. "Well, why don't you go see if she's there and let us know? If she comes back, I'll tell her that you went looking for her." Rebecca nodded, clearly a little freaked out, and left. The boys seemed to have run themselves out because Randall was laying on the pavement and panting like a dog. That gave me an idea. I took my chalk and went to draw his outline. I remember thinking that the chalk had barely been worn down at all, and thought again how special it must be. Randall looked at me as I started to draw, laying still so I could get a decent outline. It was like one of those shows where the police were standing around a chalk outline on the ground, though I didn't know what it meant just yet. "Do me next," Carter said, coming to lay down not far from Randall before hopping up and saying the pavement was too hot. He was still looking for a good spot when I finished the outline, and something astonishing happened. I had sat back to see it, and Randall was getting ready to sit up when he suddenly dropped into the concrete, like he'd fallen into a hole. I knelt there, just looking at the spot for what felt like hours, trying to make sense of what had happened. "Hey, are you going to come do me too?" Carter said, sitting up and looking at the spot. "Hey, where did Randall go?" I fell onto my butt, looking at the spot, and soon I was running for home. My mind was racing, trying to find some reason why this would have happened, and I was equally as afraid that I would be in trouble. I'd made the outline, and if I couldn't make Randall come back, then they'd blame me. All I could think to do was go home. Home was like base and tag. Once you got there, you were safe, and nothing could get you. I could hear the other kids calling my name, but I needed to feel safe more than I needed to talk to them. Mom asked if something was wrong when I came running in, but I didn't stop. I went to my room and closed the door, sitting under the window as my mind raced. I was going to be in so much trouble when the other kids told an adult. It was all my fault, but I wasn't sure how. What had I done? How had I done it? Would Randall ever come back? I could see it getting dark behind me as the afternoon petered out, and when Mom called my name, I came slowly out of my room. "Hey, sweetie, are you okay? You came in so suddenly." "Yeah," I said, trying to play it cool. If they hadn't told Mom, then maybe no one had thought I had done it. Well, dinner's almost ready. I don't think your dad is joining us. He's not feeling well and says he's probably not going to work today. Hey, can you do me a favor and take the trash out? I know he'd appreciate it. I looked at the bag of trash and felt my belly squirm. I'd have to cross the blacktop to get to the dumpster, and it would be dark out there now. There were no lights out on the blacktop, and other than the lights in the parking lot, it would be very dark out there. I was less afraid of the dark by this point and more afraid of the blacktop. Would it disappear me too, like it had done to Randall? I didn't know, but I couldn't refuse without giving my mom a pretty good reason why. I grabbed the bag and set out across the blacktop, wanting to be done with it as quickly as possible. The court seemed to stretch on forever in the dark, the black asphalt feeling strange underfoot without the sun overhead. I passed Randall's outline, and the sight of it gave me a shiver. It felt like looking at a dead body, and I wanted to go far around it when I came back. I couldn't help but look at the ribbon of comic characters Mimi and I had done, but they looked different in the low light cast by the parking lot overheads. Were they moving? They looked like they were moving, but it was in that way that things move when you look at them for too long. They moved in that dreamy way that things move on hot days, and it was hard to tell what was happening. I was breathing very hard. I felt like I might hyperventilate, and I needed to get home before I collapsed. I didn't want to stick around long enough to find out what could be happening out here. I tossed the bag into the dumpster, my ordeal half over, but it wasn't over yet. I came back to the edge of the blacktop, and that's when I saw the hopscotch board. It was massive, stretching all the way back from one end to the other, and on a whim, I decided to jump over the square in front of me. It wasn't a big jump, but I must have come down wrong because my heel fell inside the square, and suddenly I lost my balance. I spun my arms trying to right myself, and luckily I fell left instead of back. I hissed as I skinned my elbow on the pavement, but that wasn't the weirdest part. I looked down to find my leg dipping into the box that had been chalked into the pavement, and I breathed a sigh of relief when I pulled it out. I was scared now. I started running as I tried to make it back home. I didn't know what was happening, but I wanted to feel safe again. Home was safe. Nothing could get you at home, but as I passed the ribbon of characters, I saw that I hadn't been mistaken earlier. They were moving, reaching for me with their oddly defined limbs, and the dinosaur that I had drawn was snapping his jaws at me as it glowered. They were moving painfully slow across the blacktop, coming for me, and I jumped over them as I kept running. They were too slow to get me, and I was too scared to slow down. As I passed by the outline of Randall, I thought I heard someone softly crying and felt the dread rise up inside me like a tide. I came barreling into the apartment, crying and yelling for my mother to help me. She wrapped me in a hug, asking what was wrong as she tried to calm me down. I must have been pretty loud because my sick father came staggering out of the bedroom to ask what was wrong. Mom clearly couldn't get anything coherent out of me, so after trying in vain to get me to eat dinner, she just put me to bed and lay with me as Dad went back to bed. Later that evening, someone called Mom, and she got up to take the call in the other room. I was supposed to be asleep, but couldn't help but hear when she talked to Randall's mother about how he hadn't come home yet. His mother must have been pretty worried, because I heard my mom telling Mrs. Gaff that she was sure that he was just at someone's house, and she'd find him any minute now. I yawned, drifting off as I hoped it would all turn out to be a dream. I woke up the next morning to find police scouring the area and asking everyone about the two missing kids. Kelsey, as it turned out, hadn't just gone home, and I now felt pretty sure that She had fallen into the hopscotch board, like I had almost done the night before. They asked me if I knew what had happened to my friends, and I told them I didn't know where they had gone. I told them I had seen them on the Blacktop the day before, and when I turned back to point at it, I saw that all the drawings were gone. One of the maintenance guys had probably seen our mess and used a hose to clean it up. It was all gone. Even the outline of Randall was gone. No one ever found a trace of Randall or Kelsey, and my parents moved away not long after. Mom got a promotion at work, and Dad got a different job that paid better and let him work a 9 to 5, so he'd be home nights. They said the neighborhood seemed less safe after the 2 kids went missing, and they were worried that I might go missing too. A lot of people left after that, actually, and I heard that the apartment complex almost closed. I never saw the Blacktop again after that, but I still dream about it sometimes. I'm older now. I know that people don't just disappear into chalk drawings, but if it's just a dream, then why do I remember it so vividly?